Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on an episode called A Sunday When No One Shows Up or When No One Comes. This is Russell, and I've got some friends with me. So I'm from Kirkland, Washington. I have Pastor Alex with me from Living Hope Church in Kent, Washington. I have Pastor Ed from Sacramento, Pastor Yuriy from Heaven, next to Heaven, sort of the Destin, Florida area, and Mike Khochay, also from Sacramento, California. These are all pastors, and wanted to do a little phone call together and really ask these guys, what do you do on a Sunday when no one comes up? Now, for some, as a pastor, that's a Sunday, or maybe you're doing a small group and you've invited friends, and no one shows up, or maybe you're a youth leader or work in Sunday school, doing some kind of a Bible study. I remember when I moved to Oklahoma, my wife and I, and we thought, hey, let's build some friendships and relationships, and we invite a bunch of people. We're going to have our first small group, and we invited 10 couples, and nobody came, and it's so heartbreaking. And so, no matter what role you play in the church, there's going to be moments in a small church or in a big church setting when no one shows up. So wanted to ask you guys, what do you do when no one shows up to your Bible study or to Sunday? Do you guys even have that happen? I mean, Ed, you've got a church of, I don't know, 4,000 people. Do you even have something like that happen?
Russell, I love, man, my church just grew over like in a second. Yeah, but no, a larger church for sure. But it does happen. It happens, I think, in a large church too. Maybe not on necessarily like your main services, but different things that you start off, small group semester, or we have like a little service. We don't have space anymore in our main English service, so we don't have space in overflow. So we opened up another service, but in a smaller building at the same exact time as one of our Russian-speaking services, and so it's like a small church feel in a big church. Well, we're averaging 80, 90 people there. And this last Sunday, we had 30. I mean, then we had a guest speaker. You know what I mean? So it happens even in a large church.
Wow. So what do you do? How do you not get discouraged when that happens?
I mean, I think every person can answer for their situation. I think that, we can get into the pastoral side. And I think that's something that I think we'll do a little bit later. But for me, it's about kind of staying on track with what you're doing. I think anytime something like that happens, it tests you. It tests kind of why you do what you do, and like what you really feel like inside about what you're doing and about your mission. So, if we're talking about a Sunday service, it really tests whether you're there for what you say you're there for, which is to pastor people. So in this situation, for example, there's 30 people. It feels awkward because you're treating it like a service, but really it's a small group. And the speaker too, the guest speaker is like, hey, it was cool. It was intimate. I was preaching to a small group. And you can either be awkward about it or you can lean into it. And so I think the key here is, number one, understanding why you're doing this. You're pastoring people, whether it's 30 or 80 in this specific setting. And so you have to really lean into that and not try to pretend something that it's not, but at the same time, not being all awkward. And like I've seen pastors consistently apologizing from stage for some reason. Like, don't do that. You don't need to apologize for pastoring people. Just pastor them and lean into it.
Yeah.
Mike, you're breaking up a little bit.
I would say you have to keep things consistently, right? Consistent with whatever you're doing, right? If it's a Sunday service, keep it consistent. The same way you have a full room, half a room, keep things consistent. I think that's important because people are gonna come, people are gonna maybe not show up, but if it's a different kind of a style of a service, or now you're changing things because that room is not full, like people see that.
Yeah.
Alex, Yuri, you want to add anything else to this question?
I think this question is more for church planners that actually feel the pain of empty chairs, man. because we've lunched. We had a successful lunch, amazing lunch. Over 320 people showed up, and then Michael welcomed them. Michael the hurricane welcomed the next year, and we went down to 64 people, man. 64 from 320. Everybody left the state, and we basically rebuilt the church. I'm going to say this to this question. If I'm going to be real, I was disappointed. I feel like everybody can get to, disappointed, discouraged, sad, asking why. I've been there for a few years myself. I was looking at the empty chairs until God really freed me from this syndrome of empty chairs. And God just simply said, "Why are you looking at the empty chairs? Look at those that are filled in and pastor those people." And when you pastor those people, and you see the miracle happening, you see people changing, you see people understanding who God is, you suddenly don't care about those empty chairs, and you're just pastoring people. And so I think what Pastor Mike said, consistency, that is the number one thing. And just surrender that. What God has given you, that's what God has given you. We've launched with 3 something. Right now we have a church of 200 people. We got to get through this barrier, and that's okay. But I'm loving life. I think the more healthier I am, the more healthy the church is. The more I'm
Yes.
enjoying life, the more church enjoys life. The more I'm upbeat and living life, and truly people see that, because they don't
Mhm.
watch, they hear you preach, but they watch really how you live.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's good. So for those that maybe don't know, I'm in the Seattle area and we don't get too much sunshine here. So when the sun does show up, people disappear, and we feel that. And honestly, like Yuri shared, for the first couple of years, I would get frustrated come like May, June, July, because people are not there. But what we learned to do is just stay focused, stay on the mission, and if we did everything right leading up to Sunday, we feel good about it. And we just learn from that experience. But what I learned through the process is sometimes what we're building backfires. And what I mean by that is we've been building community, we've been building life groups, and we've been building that community at Living Hope Church. And then all of a sudden comes sunshine, those communities travel together, they vacation together, they take quadding trips together, they're at the beach together, and you feel that on a weekend. And so uh, at the same time, we're rejoicing because the community is happening. And then at the same time, we feel that Sundays they're not there. But overall, we feel good because overall the mission of the church is being fulfilled, and we're getting through the Sundays that when there's less people for sure.
Hmm.
Can you guys? Is my microphone working right
Yeah.
now? No, Yuri, it's funny. It's funny what you were saying. I want to kind of just gonna jump on that a little bit. It's funny because you're angry because people are not coming, and then when people are coming, you're angry because they're not worshiping the way you want them to worship. You know what I'm saying? So you get this angry you. So it's like you have to appreciate what God is doing, be the best and the healthiest person you can be. Right? Like that's what's gonna attract people. But if you're just always angry because why aren't you coming? Now
Yeah.
you're coming. Why aren't you praying? Why aren't you worshiping? Why aren't you giving? Like. And I mean, honestly, it's like people probably won't want to be in that room with there's just an angry pastor. They're just never happy with nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah, being a healthy you is an important thing for a healthy church.
So good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I I heard Pastor Greg Surratt, the founder of ARC, he shared this kind of statistics, and I'm not going to repeat the number because I don't know it for sure, but it was over 50%. When he did an overview of ARC churches, he found that well over 50% of the pastors were facing burnout. And some were even getting professional help to deal with the burnout that they were going through. A big percentage were. And the thing that shocked him, and this is him just sharing this, saying, when I did a study of the churches of the pastors that are feeling burnout, I expected to see small churches that are consistently small ARC churches that are looking at the fast growing ARC churches, plants that are exploding in growth, 1,000, 2,000, and looking at that picture and going, that's why they're stressed out and feeling burnt out. And then he said when he did the entire survey, he found that literally it is an equal percentage from every church size.
Hmm.
Meaning, I think what's brought up when you talk about a question like a Sunday when no one comes, or people that don't give, they come but they don't give. It's really brings up a question that I think is fundamental to every pastor in every situation, whether you're a church plant or a large church, or you're a growing church, or whatever season it is. It brings up a question, I think, of identity. And really, I mean, I'm sorry to put the pastor hat on in a group of amazing pastors, but it is a question of identity. And I like the way that it was broken down for me. Or somebody said, look, At the end of the day, these things test your calling. Your calling is three things. It's your identity, your purpose, and your assignment. And the identity aspect means, how do you feel fulfilled? How do you feel important? How do you feel valuable? What makes you feel like you matter? And I think when you show up to a Sunday service and there's nobody there, it makes you feel like what you're doing doesn't matter, or it makes you feel, even if you're going to be honest, at the core, you're following this calling, you're paying a price, you're sacrificing something, and nobody shows up, or people aren't responding, they're not giving, or they're not buying into the small groups, or whatever it is. And it's really a reflection on you going, man, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if I'm the right person for this, or whatever it is. It comes out in different ways. But that's a question of identity. And Greg Surratt, the way that he described it, he's like, look, there's a reason I put in my phone every morning at 6 a.m. I get a text message from God that just says, I love you, son. And he says, because that's how you got to start every single pastoring day. Your identity is you are loved by God. You're a beloved child of God before you're a pastor, before you do anything, before you preach a sermon. So that concept is amazing, because if you are doing that in the morning and you're starting with that identity, I think you're being proactive. And that's what sets you up to be what Yuriy is right now, which is a guy who says, look, I don't look at the empty seats. I'm enjoying life, and because he's fulfilled, not by
But
how
I
showed up.
But I did, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I did.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge that. I did it for many years. I'm like, my eyes would drift to those empty seats. And now I
Yuriy,
just want to be healthy and love God and live life. That's it.
show
Yes.
me one pastor who says that he doesn't face that. Not just faced, by the way. I don't believe that you can tackle this question once and for all. I think it's maintenance. There's a reason why Greg Surratt gets a text message every morning. Because even though this, and we're talking with pastors and church planters who know identity, yet you have to, there has to be a calibration that happens all the time so that you're your healthiest version. So we all faced it, and we're going to still face it no matter what.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I would just say just one more thing, that no matter what you're doing, there's still some things you can do to not have that Sunday when nobody shows up. So for example, they say that for every one person you have scheduled on Sunday, you can expect about 3.5 people in attendance. And so, if there's a Sunday's coming and you have nobody scheduled to serve, or you're going to have a bad Sunday, right? So sort of, let's look at your planning center, and I can tell you how many people are showing up, in terms of statistically. And so there's some things you could do to kind of avoid those days when it's just like, all right, nobody shows up, and yeah, you can expect a little bit more. Let me transition to our second question really quick. So, and similar to it is, how do you prepare for a slow season? In the Seattle area, it's the months of July and August. You don't see the sun for 10 months, and then it shows up. First 2 weeks, we're sort of wondering what that yellow thing is, but then we realize it's the sun. It shows up July 5th, not July 4th, July 5th, and it's gone August 31st. And so so you basically have 7 warm Sundays, and you can't yell at people for enjoying them. So how do you prepare for a slow season like summer, and what are things you do maybe in the summer that help your church bring to life during that season?
I can say what we started doing just recently, especially this year, beginning of this year. Last year I got over my empty chair syndrome. That was last year. So it was almost 6 years on and off. I thought I got over it, but last year I finally let that go. Every time summer comes, because we have the same thing in Florida, people run away, get away. We have some visitors. We simplify things. Just simplify. Do less things. Go focus on your family. Go hang out with your family. Schedule other pastors. Raise other pastors. We have currently 3 in our church. I get away. I get away at least 1 month to just find myself again. I go into the woods and just spend some time on my own. Go on a little spiritual retreats, 3 days. Whatever you can do, go invest in your family. Like don't let the church be every single thing that you are. Because you're so much more than that. That's your calling. but you have family, you have kids, and so we simplify everything. We put everything on hold. As far as small groups, we say if you want to lead it, go ahead, lead it. If you want to pause it, pause it. We don't we kind of monitor from afar how many. I think currently we have still 5 small groups that's meeting during the summer, but that's it. Usually it's 8, 10, 12. So simplification. We just simplify everything, enjoy life, and I prepare other speakers to speak every 2 Sundays, every 3 Sundays, and I unplug a little bit and just go enjoy the sun with everyone else.
I think we're in the same boat. Like we don't want to fight the natural tendencies, and that's the summers here. Families are going to travel, and that's normal. So what do we do? We try to have, we have good events, we have park events, we have baptism, baby dedication. We bring more guest speakers, but we understand summer is going to be a slow season. We're kind of slowing down ourselves. Like I'll take a month off. Pastor Serge will take a month off. Some of our leaders will. So it's just one of the things. Like, but hey, we still try to keep it really fun. So after every service, we'll have some kind of watermelon or ice cream, something after church. So we treat summer like, hey, it's church is still going. Yeah, people are not gonna show up, but it's perfectly fine. We're still gonna have a great summer. Like that's kind of how we're doing it.
Hmm.
Yeah, very, very similar. Like everybody else shared, we try to take a lighter summer when it comes to Living Hope Church. Not services are a little bit shorter. Life groups, they have an easier program for the summer. They kind of do it on their own schedule, when they want to meet, how they want to meet for the summer. In August, we've done in the past what we call summer Sundays. That's for just the kids. It's very similar to like VBS style, so it's outdoors. They're out in the sun. They're having fun activities out there, and that seems to attract a lot of parents. So I think usually what the goal is for those families that are not out of town, for them to still make it to church, and that's things like the summer Sundays. They attract that. Baptism works really well. But kind of what was shared already, we try to, as pastors, also take a lighter summer. But what's important to me is to, even if I'm not preaching, to model that I'm there unless I'm out of town. Because people will catch on quick if the pastor is gone for 3 to 4 weeks every summer. It's a good habit to build for themselves as well. So I try not to model that. I try to preach less in the summertime, but I try to be there in the front rows unless I'm out of town with my family.
Yeah. One of the things that we've started to do this summer barbecues. So Sundays in July are always shorter. And after service, we just got hamburgers, hot dogs. Just some Sundays we'll have food trucks come out. And, in the Seattle area, it's so easy. You just put out a request to one email, and all of a sudden all these food trucks volunteer to come out and be a part of your service. And, we'll have ice cream, Menchie's food truck, or different types of food trucks come out. One Sunday we'll bring in like pony rides for kids after service. So simple things like this actually make our Julys be some of the most attended Sundays for the life of our church, surprisingly, because people just want to spend time together. And so maybe small groups aren't as active during the week, but we get that community time together on Sundays, which has been really, really life-giving. I think that those are some great ideas in terms of summer. I've heard too is like, hey, do baby dedications in the summer, spread them out because they bring in families, right? Things like this that you can do during the summer.
We have one next week.
Do you? Yeah, we got one in June coming up. We were doing 2 baptisms in the summer. All these things just to invite people in. A third question, we're still all young on this call, but question for you guys: do you still ever find yourself tossing and churning at times, worrying maybe nobody's going to show up? Kind of find some better church, find some better pastor, find something better to do. Is this still a common occurrence for you guys in terms of just worry and anxiety as a leader?
Pastor Ed, you guys, your church is the most established. What do you have that, brother?
I didn't establish the church.
Well, I understand, but you were there from the get-go.
The church in
Yes.
already a very healthy state, and so the fear that I always have is, and it's not that I have, but it visits me for sure, is I'll mess it up, no matter what. I don't have the syndrome of, I'm trying to fill somebody's shoes, or, God has really taken me through the different seasons of ministry. I've faced, small things and small questions where people don't show up in different aspects, not in a main service, but when I was in charge of English services, when we were just, growing it, or youth ministry, when we were opening it up in the church. So I feel like God took me through a school to where I do have a foundation to be able to handle it, but I'm very on guard. I'm a firm believer that a pastor who gets confident in his own, I don't know, in the faith of his own, like, ministry, and that you got it figured out and you're confident, it can really easily mutate into something that will actually be a trap for you. So I think that consistent, whenever a worry shows up, so like literally, like something will happen, something will trigger it, maybe, a conversation with somebody is disappointed, or maybe, some initiative that I pushed that didn't work out, or, a project that we started and we can't finish it. Like, there's things like that that trigger it. I look at it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to come to Christ, and once again, to have him answer the foundational questions of who I am to him, that I'm his child. And I'm just saying it. That's literally what I have to go through periodically, because those questions do come up. But I don't run from them, because I also don't want to be in denial saying, oh, I'm good. No, it's like, no, I have to actually, every little thought that you have, I mean, if the Bible makes it on a thought level that you got to capture it and make it obedient to Christ, that means you can't ignore those thoughts just with confidence. I feel like you have to, that's a prompting to go to the prayer closet and to ask Jesus, hey, like, just speak into my heart again, so that I could be the Yuriy, like what Yuriy was talking about, what Mike was talking about. I want to be the joyful, fulfilled person. Because if I'm not fulfilled, as in, like, if I'm not complete, then even if I have a great big ministry, I'm not life-giving. I remember there was a speaker at a large conference 2 years ago, and this was a conference that was broadcast all over the world. Okay, it's one of the largest attended conferences, that there is. He came out on stage, and he's a successful pastor. And after 40 minutes of him speaking, there was not one person that I talked to that watched that message that didn't go, this guy, something's up with him. Something's wrong with him. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you can sense that. If you're not working out of an overflow, people can sense it right away. Even if you have a massive ministry and a lot of influence, who cares? I can see it right away in your soul. Sorry for preaching.
What I love what you said. Always be on guard. I really do. But what helped me, I guess it's be truly healed, because I battled with the empty chair syndrome, and the idea that, and because the hurricane was one thing. I mean, we had multiple years that I can say that something happened. But what helped me is this understanding. There's a story in the Bible of talons, right? 1, 2, and 5, and there's two versions of that story. If master gives you one, be okay with one. If master gives you two, be okay with two. If master gives you five, be okay with five. Because every story, all of our stories here are unique, are different. The reach is unique and different. What our churches, the people that we reach, and how we reach, and when we're going to reach, even when the capacity to reach more people God's going to breathe, and you break through this barrier and another barrier. It's just helped me to be okay with where I'm at, instead of always fighting. We better break 300. Better break 300. If we don't break it, there's something's wrong with me. No, nothing's wrong with me. Nothing's wrong with anybody. I'm just. This is, if it's the capacity that I have for today, for right now, for this season. My kids are still young. I'm okay with this. And I think living in contentment and really having joy in every season of your life, I think that's the key for me. I think truly, I love what Pastor Ed said, being on guard. Always be on guard, always pray, read, but always just enjoy life, because
See,
what brought me to Christ is seeing Christ, seeing joy in someone else, not their preaching, not the message, but really joy. Like, I saw Jesus. Like, wow, I saw Jesus in you. I want to live like that. I want to truly live with peace, with joy, without any syndrome, surrender it all. And then add what Pastor Ed said. That's awesome. That's a good recipe.
Yeah, can I ask a question for everybody here? Do you think that growth can become an idol?
Absolutely. I think it's been an idol in my life because I was surrounded by ARC. I was surrounded by all the executives and all the big churches and all the. I mean, that's the only people that I hang out with in the beginning, and that's the only thing I saw is the mega churches, is mega, 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 and I'm like, I'm just a fly on the wall as far as
He
me.
said, he said, Mega, are you like rooting for the next president here or what?
Florida.
You know what's interesting that I discovered is that there isn't this magical number that if you just hit that number, all of a sudden everything's perfect. Like if you just hit 500 and every pastor is just waiting for that 500. What's true though is that every pastor, like if they're at 20 people, they think at 25 life is going to be good, you know. And if they're at 70, they think if just they just hit 100, and so you talk to them and they feel like that 100 is that magical number. And then you talk to somebody at 300 and they're just like, man, I'm incomplete till it's at 500. And everybody's just willing to, I mean, do just, man, just a little bit more to get there. And that can be such a trap. No matter what size you are, that one, you have to find at some point contentment, not in the numbers and the success in Christ. At the same time, you want to pursue excellence and growth as well.
Exactly.
And so where do you find that balance?
See, Russ, and I would just say, yeah, there's something to that because yeah, when you do your part, right, you've invited the people, you're praying for your city, you're connecting with your community. When you've done everything you can, you have to trust the results to the Lord, right? Because I mean, you can just become complacent, be like, hey, you know what? They show, they show, they don't, they don't. Then you just brush the dust off my shoes and be like, you know what? Y'all going to hell, you bunch of heathens. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't coming. It's all good. So I think it's the healthy balance. Hey, I'm doing everything I can for my part, but hey, the results are up to the Lord. I think that's yeah, that has to be a healthy balance there.
Brothers, last question, and very similar to that. How do you go through after a difficult sermon? I mean, a sermon fails, or how do you go through a difficult Monday when after you have a terrible Sunday? Maybe just some healthy, practical suggestions for you guys. You know, and some of us are going to face maybe some of these Sundays, especially in Seattle in August. Mondays are going to be tough. How do you not resign on Mondays? What are some things you do to help you through those recover after those difficult weeks?
Yeah, so I really like John Maxwell said a while ago. He taught about the 24-hour rule, is that he gives himself 24 hours to celebrate his victories and to cry about his failures. And I've kind of learned that over the last year and a half too. Is like you have 24 hours, which is a Monday, to really cry about what happened last Sunday. You butchered the sermon, your theology was way off, people didn't show up or whatever. And then Monday's over, you know, and then Tuesday you get back to building. So I've kind of been practicing that. It was like I have 24 hours to really think that through and not grow from there and not spend the whole
That's
week down
interesting
about it.
because you allow yourself to grieve a little bit, which is important too. I think for good, healthy healing is that grieving process. And so that's an interesting perspective. Thanks for sharing that.
But for both, for success, you celebrate for 24 hours because sometimes I found we would get stuck on such a big conference or a service that happened and the success there, and we're so focused on what happened last week, and then we're not even preparing for what's coming up too. So you celebrate success for 24 hours, you cry about your failures for 24 hours, and you move on and keep building God's church.
I think for me, it doesn't matter if it's a failure or success. I feel just this overwhelming pressure every Monday. It doesn't matter. Like every Monday, I want to quit. Good Sunday, bad Sunday. It's one of those things. Like I already know it's so spiritual. So for me, my biggest thing is that hey, I gotta just get through Monday and come back into Tuesday. And Tuesday, I'm like, yeah, let's conquer the world. I feel like a different man on Tuesday. Mondays is just regardless. It's just a hard spiritual day. So I try to take it off. Try to kind of be quiet, do things that just re-energize just me, refill me. So that's kind of more of like my Monday. Regardless, like it's always gonna be tough, and I know
Mhm.
that already.
Mhm.
Mm.
Pastor Randy from Bayside Community in Florida, in Bradenton, he told me this. I battled these. We all battle bad Sundays and good Sundays,
Mhm.
and some Sundays that we think we're good, we're not good, and some Sundays we think we're bad, we're actually amazing, and there's a whole
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
fruits from that. But
Yeah.
Pastor Randy gave me this analogy that still helps me today. He says, look up, and I look up. I'm like, you see blue skies today, right? Okay, awesome. Tomorrow there might be clouds. We need both. You cannot take service from here to here. Where's my camera? From here to here to here to here to here to here. We wanted to get the service. Like I killed it today. I'm gonna kill it next one. I'm gonna do double. It's just like we want it to always progress and go up, but we need the blue sky and we need some rain and clouds, and it's okay. Some Sundays are not. We think we didn't do it good, but Holy Spirit might have done some work in people that we will see
Yes.
it later. So it just helped me to kind of grieve and get over it pretty quickly, and just start preparing it for next one. Analyze, learn from it. Of course, you have to
Mhm.
look back, analyze. Always analyze. I always analyze. Like I always watch. I don't know if you guys do, but I watch my preaching, and I judge myself. I'm like, okay, you stutter here. Okay, you said here. You said
Mhm.
that okay here. I watch myself, and that helps me. But the understanding is okay. Today is clouds. Next Sunday is going to be a blue sky.
Come on.
Yeah, this is awesome. Well, thank you for joining us for just a little bit today. Wanted to highlight something really quick for us. Many of us here, well, we're all here on this video connected to something we do called Church Momentum Collaborative, where we're connected now nationally to 96 pastors with a Slavic background who've planted community churches or English services alongside a Slavic church and from all over the States. And from time to time, we get together. Actually, getting together this October, more than half of the 96 have committed to come. And we're actually just going to be together, learning from each other, kind of talking like today, talking through some practical things, and a number of pastors coming from all over. One of the great honors for us this year is that we have Larry Osborne joining us from San Diego. He took a church literally from 200 people to 13,000, and probably alongside John Maxwell and Rick Warren, probably one of the spiritual fathers, in our nation today. Phenomenal leader. His books, like Sticky Teams, have been so influential in for our church and team development. And the fact that he's going to be with us is going to be so exciting. But there's going to be a lot of so it's all day Thursday, all day Friday, October 3rd and 4th in Seattle, Washington area, in Kirkland, Washington, actually. We want to encourage you, take your teams, grab your youth pastor, maybe kids pastor, worship leader. We're going to have some breakout sessions connected to kids, youth, women in ministry, preaching and teaching, and doing Sundays well, and doing social media and Google and all kinds of ways, how to do Sundays well, how to do small groups well. And so we'd love for you to join us and be with us together this October in the Seattle area. But thanks for joining us. We're going to do these once every other week leading up to this event, just so you guys can kind of get to meet some of the pastors with the Slavic background that are reaching the community. Bless you guys, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.